Markov. I'm the Learning Director for Small Business at Defense Acquisition University, and back with you for another episode of All Things Small Business, where we talk to anybody that wants to participate in the industrial base, defense industrial base from a small business perspective. So we like to have our followers, we appreciate it. We're talking to government, we're talking to industry, we're talking to academia. And if you want to know something about small business within DoD, this is a great podcast to follow. I always want to give a shout out to my co-producer, Dr. Renee Reynolds. She's behind the camera doing all the technical, and this wouldn't be possible without her. I'm real excited today. We have a very interesting topic to talk about. We're going to talk about an upcoming event called Small Business Training Week 24. 24 means it's calendar year 2024. And why is that important? And what does it mean to the defense industrial base and the workforce? Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit. And my special guest today is Dr. Jacqueline Charles. Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you with us. We know each other. We've been working together for several years. This is pretty exciting that we get to pair up today and bring this podcast. She works in the Department of Defense Office of Small Business Programs. She reports directly to Mr. Mehta, who is the director. She does a lot. She does policy, she does workforce development, which is, well, we've worked a lot on workforce development because it's really critical to train the workforce, absolutely. And she works on subcontracting. So a reminder out there, if you're a large business, make sure you're complying with your small business subcontracting plan. And for you subcontractors, make sure you know what's in that contract and you're performing your part as well. And for the government, make sure that you are monitoring compliance. That's just a little freebie for today. But she's also, in this role, she is the lead planner for Small Business Training Week 24. It's a heavy lift. She's doing a great job. We're a little over a month or so away from the event, and we thought it would be great to share with you what's coming and what we can talk about. So first of all, welcome to the podcast again.
Thank you.
And may I call you Jacqueline for the purpose of the podcast?
Absolutely.
All right, so it's great to have that doctorate and really appreciate that, but we'll call her Jacqueline to make it easier for the podcast. So first of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about Small Business Training Week? I know there's a theme every year. This year's theme, why did you select it and what does it really mean?
Well, thanks for that question, Ken. So really the theme, which is small business barriers, strategies for success, igniting the future. And really this theme summarizes the department's commitment to foster environment for small business to thrive within this area. But the theme also really capitalizes on, the pivotal role that small business play within our economy, national security, as well as our defense missions. And so to really kind of decompose that theme itself, when we're saying breaking down barriers, we are talking about the department's commitment or focus on removing obstacles that really hinder small businesses from participating in defense contracts and programs. And then when we talk about strategies for success, we're really talking about, really having those important dialogues where agencies are coming up with strategies to overcome these barriers. I think it is so critical, so important to hear those conversations so that you understand how to apply that within your own respective organizations. And lastly, when we say igniting the future, that's really focusing on the long-term impact to empowering our small businesses. I do think in doing so, it really helps to strengthen and solidify the department's supply chains, but also it really acknowledges and fuels our economic growth, job creations, and technology advances for capabilities that we do deliver to our warfighters.
So a lot of important things here. So I think that one key message is the department really wants to do business with small businesses. We need them, right? We need to grow the industrial base. So this is really a training and education forum for government, right? This is government only.
Yes.
For government acquisition professionals, small business professionals, to learn how to better execute small business programs. You talked about removing barriers. I think those barriers have been identified. There's several documents out there where some of those barriers are identified. So this is a great opportunity to get folks together and talk about how you can participate in growing the defense industrial base. So that's kind of the purpose of this year's theme, right?
Yes.
Real important.
Yes.
And I guess this really important to Mr. Mita.
Yes,
And
it
really
is.
important to his leadership.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So this is good. So you can tell there's excitement and passion in this as we talk about this. So the topic certainly, I guess, is used to kind of drive agenda. The conference is broken out with open plenary sessions, breakout sessions. So what are some of the major topical areas that this conference is going to cover so people that may want to come and say, hey, I really want to learn about that. What are some things that they're going to be able to learn about in the conference?
So I will say this year, as we've done before, we have a great lineup of speakers, topics to address the theme here for this year. In support of the theme, we're going to also, of course, address updates to the DoD and small business programs, but also to hear from speakers on how they're using strategies to overcome barriers that small businesses do face. For instance, there will be a panel discussion on tearing down barriers to on-time payments, which is a critical need that we need to address within the government that small businesses are encountering. There will be a session on avoiding improper bundling and consolidation, where Sam Lee and Max Kadalov will talk best practices in order to avoid doing that. And then there will also be another session to talk about strategies for success when it comes to intellectual property and technical data rights. And so we'll have Dr. Bryson Reynolds and Ms. Abby Boggs from IP Cadre to educate on IP protection and benefit to the defense industrial base. But we do have a lot of sessions planned up, so I do encourage people to please visit the Small Business Training Week website, which is www.sbtw24.com, to sign up for these sessions so you can get the information that you need.
So the agenda is very broad range. You mentioned IP, industrial property. You also mentioned some of the topics for, that Sam Lee, and they would be small business administration speakers. So there are speakers that are outside of DoD that are going to participate, right? So we're bringing experts from outside of DoD. So this is really, I've been to several small business training weeks. Each one is unique. They're unique because they're held at different times during the year, usually in the late spring or summer months. They're usually held at different locations around the country. This one's going to be in Chicago, right? Yes. Chicago. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Last year it was in Baltimore. I think the last one before that was in person was held in St. Louis. So each one has a unique flavor. Some of the value that I've taken out of it, looking back over the years, you always have an opportunity to rekindle relationships, to build or expand your network. Those are all great things. You get to hear from experts about issues that are relevant, that are taking place right now. So it really is a marquee training event that really is a good thing to have on your annual training regimen if you're a small business professional, and in many cases other acquisition professionals would get a lot of key information from there as well. Is there anything that's really like you would say would be maybe the marquee topic or speaker this year? Is there somebody that's really coming in? It's really going to be like, this is what we're really expecting. This is like the main course. What do you think?
Well, we have so many great keynote speakers. We're going to have Major General Richard Nally come be a keynote speaker during one of the luncheons. We're going to have the Undersecretary of the Army come. I mean, there is just a variety of keynote speakers that will be at that event. This is something that you definitely do not want to miss.
It's awesome. I mean, just think about it. And I was thinking last year at the event, you were the mistress of ceremonies. Yes. I see that you moved that role on. That you decided I'm going to plan it this year. You did a great job up there, and that's a lot of work to manage all the moving parts, to be the mistress or master of ceremonies for a couple-day conference. So one of the things that we always look for, obviously in the government, is to look and what do we do? What did the audience or what did the learners say? So we collect feedback. You collect feedback. What's some of the feedback that you've gotten from maybe last year's conference that you used as a kind of a planning guide, or something that maybe changed course, or how did that feedback from last year's conference impact what you're doing this year?
So I would say probably one of the main points from the feedback that we did receive from last year's conference is I'll say the layout, the content, the feel of the conference came across as repetitive. And so you do see that this year we have definitely taken that feedback to heart, And we have completely revamped this event. The look and feel is completely different than what we've done in previous years. And so we want to bring new excitement. We want people excited to come to Chicago and attend this event. And I think we've done a great job in doing so.
So essentially, what you're saying is, even if you're an old timer, you've been there, done that, come this year because there's a lot of changes that are going to facilitate the learning, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
So we mentioned Chicago. When is the event? It's in Chicago. When is it?
So it'll be April 29th through May 3rd. And online registration is open right now. Again, if you could just go to the Small Business Training Week website, which is again is www.sbtw24.com. You can register for the conference and take care of your hotel accommodations as well.
So spring in Chicago.
Yes.
During baseball season.
Yes.
All right. And again, it's government only. You must be a government employee.
Yes.
It's not just for Department of Defense. It's open to all federal agencies
Yes.
that could come. And we partner, or DOD, you partner with the Small Business Administration. So we have two federal agencies that partner together, but it's open to any federal employee that would like to come, and we're all part of this, encourage folks to come outside of DOD or SBA,
Yes.
just because of the learning, absolutely. So you talked early on in the podcast about some of the barriers. So, and you mentioned a couple. You mentioned, the supply chain, and we mentioned, we're trying to regrow the defense industrial base, intellectual property. Are those, or are there other pressing issues that are really important that we continually educate our workforce on?
Yeah, so I would say probably, in my opinion, the top three pressing issues that we do work to address is the complexity with the regulations within the federal government. That is a challenge that small businesses face, but also too the improper bundling and consolidation of contracts that we're definitely working to address as well. And then also, as the third one, is the confusion around the entry points into the defense marketplace. You will hear during the conference, key speakers addressing how we are addressing these matters. For instance, Mr. Mita will provide some updates, but also explain what our office is doing to revamp our DoD OSBP website into a one-stop shop where anyone can go to get the information that they need. We have Khalil Mack, who is the director of the Apex Accelerators. He will talk about how the accelerators are working with small businesses to, I'll say, navigate the pathway to enter the government contracting arena. We have Mr. Derek Davis, who is our Director of Industrial Cybersecurity. He'll talk a lot about Project Spectrum and how that helps small businesses address their cybersecurity requirements. And then lastly, we'll have Sam Lee from Small Business Administration, as well as Paula Smith from the OSD Defense Pricing Contracting, provide some legislation and regulatory updates to their audience. So I'll say we're covering everything.
Sounds very broad. Key speakers that are experts in their particular area.
Yes.
Sam Lee, I'll give him a shout out. Sam Lee is always a conference
Yes.
favorite. Everybody likes to have the SBA regulatory and statutory update with Sam Lee, so he's awesome. But to hear the other speakers are as critical, and the focus really is like a Project Spectrum brief or an Apex Accelerator brief. Apex Accelerators used to be the PTACs. They've been rebranded and they have an expanded mission set. This is really available to train the workforce and how those resources are available to them, but even more importantly, how they're available to support industry. That's critical. That you understand what these resources are to help the small businesses. So I think that's really awesome. And it seems to be that the elements of these key issues are really what those are mainly going to be the open sessions, probably available to everybody. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the key issues are really the main sessions where everybody can listen and learn, and then there's going to be breakout sessions where it has capacity for smaller audiences, topics that are important, but they're not open to everybody. And is that kind of how it's set up to do it that way?
So with the breakout sessions, anyone is available to attend. We do have some restrictions with the rooming. So we don't want to go over that capacity, but if you're interested, please sign up.
And sign up for the DAU Small Business Breakout, talking about the small
Yes.
business workforce, the training as we move ahead. So we're going to have two of our small business professors that'll be out there, and they will be teaming to give a brief to the acquisition workforce on the small business training that we deliver in support of DoD OSBP. And that's how Jacqueline and I work together on the workforce development and workforce training, which is exciting. I think it's probably pretty evident about some of the things you talked about, but what's the real benefit to professional development that an individual is going to get by going to a conference like this?
So I will say that, let me kind of rephrase this. This conference is for the acquisition community. So it is inclusive of your program managers, contracting specialists, officers, procurement analysts, as well as our small business professionals. And so as a collective body, we do work together to advocate for small business participation. And so this conference is to provide, the tools, resources, sharing best practices to help people to do that very work that we're looking for them to do. In outreach activities, building those relationships with industry in support of getting them into our federal marketplace. This year, though, we did make a concerted effort to focus on career growth.
Okay.
For individuals who are aspiring to become a senior executive, to enter the senior executive service. So on the agenda, you will find that there is a breakout panel session titled Preparing for the Senior Executive Service, Assessing Your Readiness. On this panel will be Ms. Arvis Washington, who is the Dawn SB Director. There will also be Ms. Leslie Joseph, who is the Director of Total Force Manpower and the Navy Installations Command. And then lastly, we'll have Ms. Francine Morris, who is the Director of the Government Contracting Office within the SBA. This panel will be moderated by Ms. Pam Callicott, who is the Deputy Small Business Director within the Army Office of Small Business Programs. This panel will discuss how one can assess their readiness before entering the senior executive service. So it will be a great benefit to hear their career journey, how they made it to the top. So I'm looking forward to that session, and I hope all will pursue that session and sign up for it.
So to me, that sounds like a double benefit. You're getting workforce training for current workforce needs and what you need to do to perform your job, and those are things you talked about: outreach and working with small businesses and working with the acquisition workforce. Those are all key elements of the small business training we offer here at DAU. But to hear about how individuals have climbed that mountain and made it to the very top of their profession, I think is awesome. Pam Callicott, you mentioned, she'll be the moderator. She's actually on a rotation with the SBA as we speak.
Yes,
So she's got workforce development ongoing, and yet she's also going to talk about or moderate a panel with senior leaders. And then Miss Arvis Washington, you mentioned, she's the new director of the Navy Office of Small Business Programs. There's a prior podcast with her where she talks about how she got to where she is. She's got a very unique and interesting story on how she got to be that director, and she shares that with you in a podcast. Mm-hmm. And there'll be a future podcast with her talking about Navy priorities and things like that. So I think there's a lot of commonality between building and maintaining a workforce and working together collaboratively. And that's kind of, I think, from my perspective, that's one of the real valuable parts that the SBA is a co-partner with DOD, yes. Right? So what's the real value for DOD and for the SBA of partnering on this conference? How does that help the workforce?
So I will say our office has, consistently partnered with the Small Business Administration in support of our annual events. And in doing so, it has brought great value. We get to hear from their respective leaders in charge of their SBA small business programs, and to hear, I'll say, the latest challenges, efforts that they're doing in support, like the WASB program, the AA program, the Mentor Protege program. It's great to understand what's going on in our space in order to understand how to support it moving forward. So it's been a great partnership, and I hope that we continue it moving forward.
I think having that partnership is great because the SBA is really the federal agency that is responsible for executing the federal small business programs across the executive branch by statute and by regulation. So it makes sense that we, as probably the largest buyer for the federal government, DoD, that we would have a strong partnership with them. They get value because they get to interface with DoD, and DoD gets value because the small business professionals, contracting officers, get to meet their colleagues and peers in the SBA, the procurement center representatives, where they're going to work collaboratively on acquisition. So it just makes sense that we would train together. I think that's awesome. That's super excited. And I think we talked about this several times, but we want to make sure we get the point out there. This is not just for small business professionals, right? This conference,
Exactly.
This conference is for who?
So I'll say the acquisition community, that's inclusive of program managers, contracting specialists, officers, procurement analysts, and small business professionals. I will say this year we have made a concerted effort to advertise heavily in the contracting and program management community. So I do hope that we see an uptick in their attendance at this year's conference.
So really what we're saying, if you're a small business professional, bring your contracting officer and your program
Yes.
manager to the conference and go to Chicago and enjoy the week in Chicago at Small Business Training Week 24. I think it's really critical that that portion of the connections are made as well, because ultimately acquisition is a team sport, and all of those roles are critical in our placing of our acquisitions. So this has been real exciting to talk about this, and I'm really excited about this upcoming conference. It's a great opportunity. Is there anything else that maybe we haven't covered yet that maybe you want to get out there? Is there another element of something that maybe you want to remind our listeners about?
Yeah, I just encourage our potential attendees for this conference just to come and network. A network is so important in this space, whether you're rekindling old connections or building new. That's very important when you come to this conference. I do encourage you to just be receptive to the new knowledge that's being shared in that space. Again, hearing how other agencies are overcoming small business barriers can help you address your own challenges within your organization. And lastly, I would encourage all to have fun. We're going to be in Chicago.
Have fun.
I do encourage you to please visit the Small Business Training Week website. Again, that is www.sbtw24.com. We have information on there of local attractions. There's restaurants there that you can, patronize if you choose to. But it's a lot to do in downtown Chicago. So I do encourage you to come out. Come out and see us.
So register, attend, have fun. That's the order of the day. Have fun, because if you're not when I learned in my Navy career was always, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So I think that really is. I mean, adult learning is different. Adults, you need to have some fun and learn, which is really critical. So that's real exciting. So it's been a great opportunity to catch up with you again today, Jack, and I really appreciate you sharing about Small Business Training Week. And I guess we feel like we should go out there right now and start. But if you had to kind of come up with one key point, what's the real key takeaway you'd like a listener or viewer to take away from all the things you've talked about today? What's the real strong takeaway you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I would say that, there's something new, with this conference. It's not like how we've done in the previous years. There is something new to gain if you choose to attend. So I do encourage you to please come out. It's going to be in Chicago. Again, the opportunity is there for you to register online for the conference and to take your hotel accommodations. So I do look forward to everyone coming out and enjoying the event.
And again, it starts on April 29th, right?
April 29th through May 3rd.
April 29th through May 3rd. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Thank you for giving us your time. I know you're really busy, and I appreciate you coming down here to do the podcast. This is awesome. So thank you very much. This is Ken Karkoff, again, a Learning Director at DAU for Small Business. And thank you for listening to another episode of All Things Small Business.